It is the time of the Great Awakening, and we are here to embody the divine feminine principles and to reawaken our divine feminine gifts and flow. And for women, people in women's bodies, this has been a multi generational struggle to liberate the feminine principle, to liberate the divine feminine. And we're going to have a wonderful guest today to have a conversation with us about this topic. Ana Patricia Bourgeois. She is an intuitive business coach, podcaster, and an author, and she helps women to profit and be financially free, be their own boss without the stress and the overwhelm. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Before we start this episode, I, Carrie Hummingbird,
And I, Akeem Sami,
want you to know that
you are invited
you're invited to join
Soul
Soul Nectar Tribe.
If you like what you hear on Soul Nectar Show,
You will love being in person with us in Soul Nectar Tribe.
we invite you to check it out. First 30 days is free.
Right now, go to carriehummingbird.com, KERRI, hummingbird.com/membership, and sign up. We'll see you at our next tribe gathering. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably towards a deeper level understanding of who we are and what we came here to experience, to do, to be, to become. And I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. I absolutely adore having these conversations week after week and bringing you new gems of human beings that I find out there in the internets. And I love having these conversations because I feel like it opens up awareness that, we're experiencing the same patterns just with different details. And so sometimes when you hear someone's story that's experienced something similar to what you have, and maybe they charted a course through a challenge that you're facing right now, it can be really helpful to hear those stories and to be encouraged and inspired by that. Today we're going to be talking about, this generational march for women's liberation that we've been experiencing since the 60s, really, and probably even before that. And, I just know that my mother, for example, is a baby boomer. My mother was a person who fought for women's liberation. She fought for her own liberation. She fought for the liberation of other women. She was caught in a paradigm where, in order to survive and make ends meet, you had to have a man because the men made the income and the women made very small incomes, and that wasn't enough to support a child. And so my mother lived in a paradigm where she needed to have a husband in order to provide for me adequately. And yet now, generation later, and I'm in my 50s, early 50s, and I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've been independent. I've been able to make my own way and make my own income, and yet still have faced many of those obstacles because, of course, the thing that resonates for me to do for a living are things that are not widely recognized as, sort of financially viable in the marketplace, like art. I wanted to be a professional artist for a long time, being a spiritual healer and a mentor and a guide. These are things that our society, I believe, is coming around to value because this is the rise and the reawakening of the feminine consciousness. And so we're really in a pivot, and we've been in a pivot now for a few generations. now because it takes that long to reverse the trends of the patriarchal Piscean age and moving into the Aquarian age and the time of the Renaissance of the divine feminine gifts. And here's the thing: is in the divine feminine, it's not about men versus women anymore because that's a patriarchal concept. In the divine feminine, it's about everybody is loved, beloved, and and divinely held by the divine mother. The mother births all of us into being, and she loves every single one of us. And so when we return to the divine feminine ways, we are experiencing an entirely different reality than the one that we've been experiencing up until now. And so lots of things are in flux, in motion. And I know that if you're listening to this and you're a woman, guaranteed you've experienced lots and lots of challenges extricating you out of the patriarchal model where you were provided for and powerless and into your power. And, that journey has its bumps. So today is Ana Patricia Bourgeois to talk about all of this with us. Welcome, Ana.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. So, Ana is an intuitive business coach, a podcaster, and a published author. Her mission is to help ambitious women entrepreneurs double their sales and increase their revenue without spending extra dollars on marketing or advertising. She believes every woman has the power to be financially free and be their own boss without burnout, stress, and overwhelm. And boy, that's a big promise because, we know what we're facing. And Ana faced it as a child at 15, right? You started working in your pizzeria to help your mom pay your mortgage because she was a single mom. So tell us about your story, because this is right up your alley, what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what happened. My parents got divorced. I was 15. My father left. And I was faced with this situation where I had to help my mom in some type of way. So I had to take on 2 jobs, go to school full time and help with the bills, the mortgage, help with my little brother. He was only 7 at the time. So it was a lot of responsibility taken really young. And I feel like that was the catalyst to me deciding that I was going to find a better way. I was going to be like, no, like I want to do something that I love, get well paid for it, and help other women do the same. Obviously, I had no clue what that was going to look like back then. I just made my promise to myself. And everything just unfolded from there. Like I went to college, I started my first business, and then I found coaching, then I went into coaching, then I pivoted a few times with my niches. And when I found this niche, I was like, oh my gosh, like business, like it's what I love. It's what I believe will help a lot of women, be free, find that balance that they're looking for. It's just been an incredible journey. And yeah, I love this topic so much for sure. Like this is really up my alley, like you said.
Yeah, because when we first start the journey, because there is this allure, right? It's like when we start to make the journey into sovereignty as women, there's like this looking back, reminiscing like, oh, I used to be cared for, I used to be provided for, and now I've got to like make my own way and that stuff. But what are some of the blessings of that as you've noticed in your own journey of like those initial hardships and bumps in the road?
Yeah, I feel like it made me who I am. So like it built up my resiliency and my my passion for finding a way that speaks to me and my soul and what I love to do, because I didn't want to be like miserable and like in the rat race and not knowing how to pay my bills and how to do all the things, and like life is too short to be like stuck in that cycle. So it really was like what truly brought me here today. So I am really grateful that it happened, even though it was really painful at the time. I feel like it was like a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm a women's college educated person. I went to Smith College. It's a really well known college for independent women, and I graduated there. It's a liberation. It's a feminist college, and I graduated in like within a year or two. I married somebody, and then I started like slowly devolving, becoming like kind of like a Barbie doll, like I'm just going to be an arm piece. I'm just going to be pretty and this and that. And it was so weird to see myself going through that phase. And then of course I hit rock bottom because it has to. It's not sustainable. Yeah. It's not true. It's a false paradigm. It's like conditioning that just sunk in and made me start thinking I needed to behave a certain way in order, these constructs like marriage and all these things that are defined and set up certain ways. And, as an artisan, I have an open self chakra for anybody like in human design and in Gene Key's work. I have an open self chakra, so I can morph and change into anything. So like finding my true center has been my life's work. And I feel like that is the work for the feminine. I feel like that's the work for every female, is like we've been told who we are by all these structures. And like that's not who we are at all. So tell us about like what you discovered, because you started this journey at 15. You'd already been sort of programmed in certain ways, right? To think that, and it have certain expectations as a girl that things should be a certain way. And then all of a sudden it wasn't that way. So talk about that.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a good point. And I think the biggest thing was realizing that serving others was my path, because every time I just talk to someone or made them laugh or made them smile or just made an impact in their life, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's what I meant to do. Like I meant to serve others. I meant to make other people feel good or like change how they think, their perspectives. Like it's such like the big thing that I realized is like, I don't know what this is going to look like in the future, but I know it has something to do with other people and helping others. So it all started from there. And I think it's also the fact that like, since I've taken on so many responsibilities, it was also finding that like releasing that pressure on myself and like always realigning with what truly made that spark and that light and that passion. So it's like always going back to that. And as soon as I feel a bit of pressure, that I know I'm like not in alignment. So that's how I know. But everyone is different. So it's like finding that thing that lights you up and always realigning with it.
Yeah, and I guess I often talk about conditioning. I talk about how we're conditioned through visuals, through movies, through storytelling, through our families, through church, through wherever we grow up, our family systems. We're conditioned to think that because we showed up in this body, that we're supposed to be a certain way. So what were some of the conditions that you overcame? Like what were some of the things that you noticed and you were like, oh, that needs to change right now because I'm not in that situation. What were some of the things that you realized?
Oh my gosh. I think the biggest one was like being the good girl. So it was like, it was like go to school, get good grades, go to college, get married. Like you said, like the traditional path of like following that and being a good girl and being people pleasing and making sure other people were happy before my happiness. So I think that was the biggest one.
So, but that's interesting because you also said that your job is like you realize making other people happy makes you happy. So, isn't it interesting how like there's the true line of your actual truth? Yeah, because that is true for you, and then there's all this other schmeary stuff that gets sort of placed on top of that and falsifies it in some way. And then, so how do how do you navigate that? How do you become aware when that's happening? It's like there's truth in me, and it's being sort of co-opted.
Yeah, I see what you mean by that. And I feel like it's really taking the time to listen to your body, like your energy, how you feel in a moment. I think that's one of the biggest part that will let you know, right, if you're back in those ways or if you're like truly walking down the path that you want to walk down to. So it's really being aware and that awareness and being in tune with your body and how you're feeling in the moment. I think a lot of people are detached from that.
Yeah, and I've heard that, I was also a people pleaser, so I know that path. And, the thing that I had to learn was how to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody told me once, if you can't say no, then your yes doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a powerful one. Yeah, it's like setting down those boundaries will change everything. For sure.
And doing things for the right reasons, right? Like really acting with intention, knowing your actual intention for doing something. So I'm sure that you lead people through some kind of process in your work to help them, find their true center as a female in this world of like, hey, there's all this opportunity. Yeah, sure, there's some bumps and struggles, but what are some of the things that you see people going through and when you're working with them?
Gosh.
There's so much, right?
Yeah, there's a lot, but I think the biggest one is either perfectionism or imposter syndrome. These are the two biggest ones. And then when we uncover what's going on behind that, and when we shift and rewire, then it's like, but who am I? It's like you said, like we've been conditioned for so long, and it's like, but who am I? Like, if I do own my power, if I do the thing, the scary thing, and I move forward, and I'm bold, and I'm courageous, and I'm a leader, but then like, who do I want to be? Like, how do I want to make people feel? And it's like truly digging deep. And I feel like a lot of people don't even give themselves a chance to go there, because it's a scary place to go to. Like, it's not easy to do, but when you do it, and you're intentional, like you said, and you take the time and you dig and you talk it through, and it's like this beautiful co-creation that happens. And that's when I know, okay, we got that. Like, we know exactly where we're going. That's the path we're going to follow. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to work through it together. So it's like, I love being that guide. You know, I love supporting women through that process.
Yeah, because what happens is when you dive in there into the shadows and you take a look at everything and you do the sorting, the wizard sorting hat, of Hogwarts. And you go, this is me, this is not me. If you allow that process to happen, what ends up is that you end up more and more and more aligned to the true you. And the more aligned you are to the true you, the more things just happen with ease and grace. They just fall into your lap. Then that's the feminine way, right? I mean, that's the feminine business model.
Yes, exactly. And it's so funny that you said that, because when I first started all of this, I was really in the masculine of doing, right? And then it's like, oh no, like I hit a wall, and I'm like, okay, like where's my energy at? Like I feel so drained. What's going on? So then it's like I had to reshift and rethink, and like being like, no, I'm gonna be in my feminine too. Like it's like a balance. It's honestly a balance. If you have too much of one thing, it's never good. So it's like, how can you be feminine but still have the masculine structure to get things done and get the result that you want to get without burning yourself out in the process? So I'm a master of the masculine. Like, I've mastered that my whole life. But then it's like, wow, I have to learn how to be like feminine. And it's such a beautiful process too. So like, I'm always evolving and growing as much as my clients are. And it's like this beautiful process that we all go through.
Yeah, because we're doing this together. I mean, I think that's a sign of a good coach, is that they do their own work.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a coach that says, I have arrived,
Yeah.
you should run. Like go the other way, because that person is deceiving themselves and you. We have so much to learn at this time. If you're on the planet, you got a lot to learn. And overwhelm is actually, it's so interesting about overwhelm. I see that in your description, that you help people with overwhelm. Because certainly as a woman, when we have all of these roles and expectations placed upon us, we try to fill all of those roles and expectations and meet everyone's expectations, and especially our own, like the perfectionism you were talking about. And that leads to burnout, because you can't sustain that. It's not sustainable. Because a good part of the thing that's missing from this patriarchal structure that's coming in now in the age of Aquarius is that we need to align ourselves to the seasons. We have to align ourselves to cycles and seasons. And the moon is a great example for a woman's body, right? Like every 28 days there's a period, and that takes you out. It wipes you out of commission, right? So you have to be able to tune into these deeper cycles and rhythms, and they're here for us, because it's like Mercury retrograde. Like we're in Mercury retrograde. Last night today we have some problems getting into the call today. It's because we're being asked to review, revise, review, rethink, and you can only do that if you slow down. But when you slow down and you let yourself revise, review, rethink, you can then be even more powerful and potent moving forward, because it's about potency. It's not about force anymore. Like force is the old model, force is fear. This is more about potency and getting into your nectar zone. That's why I call this show Soul Nectar, right? You get into your nectar and things start to open up.
Yes, you described it so beautifully. That's exactly what we go through every month. And I feel like the slowing down is so important. And it's so tempting to skip that part and be like, no, I have this deadline, this thing to do. I have this interview. I have this plan. And like, just keep going. But then when you do that, like you said, you hit a wall, and it's like, the overwhelm, the stress kicks in, the burnout kicks in. So it's like, no, you got to prioritize the slowing down too. So that was the biggest challenge for me, that's for sure. But like, just schedule it in your calendar and give that time to that sacred slowing down process, and journal about it, meditate about it, just go inwards, like get a period that you can go inwards. It's so important.
Yeah, I mean, we even had to reschedule our interview because a few weeks ago
Yeah.
when we were scheduled, my body was telling me still slow down. I'd already been slowing down because it told me to slow down. So I had already been slowing down for weeks. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden I got a sty and I was like, okay, I'm not slowing down enough. Like, I already slowed down. What more do you want from me? Because I like to be busy. I'm a productive person. You know, I
Yeah.
feel I'm a manifester. I like flow. I like to be in constant flow. And when I feel like things are moving, I feel happy. When I feel like something gets in my way and it's stuck, I'm not so happy. I want to push through it, right? So I got the sty and I was like, well, that's it. I can't go on with the sty. I mean, I can't even lift my eyelid, you know? So I had to take a break. Like I had to say, well,
Yeah.
you know, and I had to ask for some grace, you know, and this is also hard for women because we feel like we have to do everything on our plate. Like we have to fulfill it in order to be a good person. But actually, you don't. You can say, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Can we reschedule? And you said, sure, right? Like,
Yeah.
not a problem. We'll reschedule it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is so good. I feel like a lot of people need to hear this right now. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to like put boundaries and say, hey, can we reschedule it? Like I totally get it. Like we're in this work. We get how it can be like a lot sometimes. And I appreciate when people are understanding. So I'm always understanding of others. So it's like that awareness too, that needs to happen. And yeah, sometimes it's also a sign that like, hey, maybe you can slow down too and take a little break this afternoon, you know? So yeah, it's really being aware of that, making sure we're intentional with our time, our calendars, giving us the time to breathe, relax, slow down. Yeah, I like that reminder a lot. I feel like a lot of people need to hear it.
Yeah, and when we slow down, we get to show up better, right, Anna? I
Yes.
mean, like I'm sure. So tell us about that. Like, what's the benefit of slowing down? What's the benefit of taking a
Mhm.
break for yourself, giving some self-care?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like every time I do it, I get not only renewed energy, but also like more creativity. Like I feel like I get like new ideas and new things to talk about. And that's exactly what happened because I took a break in December and my podcast runs all the time. Like I publish new episodes every week. But then in December, I slowed down. I didn't publish any episodes. And then when I come back, I launched season 2. And that's when I had the most like downloads ever. And the podcast just exploded. So I was like, wow, like I must have done something right, like slowing down and taking a break because I came back like full force, full of energy, full of ideas. And I feel like people like they felt that energy as well because people can feel energy. Like we're all energetic beings. So I feel like people knew and they were so excited. And yeah, the podcast exploded because of it.
Yeah, and when you're excited, other people feel that. Is
Yeah.
it's your vibration that actually matters, you know? So if
Yeah.
you're trying to drag your ass into the interview like half like with the eye all like puffed out and like, "Oh, I'm going to try to do this interview because I promised I would." That is not a good interview because you're not fully there. You're not fully present for it. You don't have the energy for it. So that's why I think it's better for us to just be honest with where we're at. Take that time and yeah, like increase your potency. Your enthusiasm is felt. I mean, I perceive your enthusiasm. And then of course there, you know, people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, she came back. Woo. And plus they missed you. You gave them a chance to miss you." Like we don't have to be on 24/7, you know? That's the other thing about the feminine I've been realizing is like
Yeah.
when we're constantly available, like okay, everybody listening, raise your hand. If you've been the one who's like constantly available and then you've had the unavailable man syndrome, like
Mhm.
that is a thing. Like
Mhm.
we're not supposed to be constantly available. I don't think. I think we're supposed to be mysterious. Like
Yes.
we show up and then everyone's like, "Oh my God, there's the feminine." And then we disappear and they're like, "Where'd she go?" And, you know, so it's like we have to invite some more mystery in, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Like I used to say like a lot of the time, like, oh no, like you gotta show up, you gotta be consistent, you gotta post like at least like 4 or 5 times a week. People are gonna forget about you. But then I realized I'm like, yeah, like people know who you are, like, because it's your power, it's your energy. And not because you just go out and don't post for a few days. People are not going to forget about you. You're still going to be there when you come back. And it's going to be even 10 times better when you do come back. So yeah, I totally, totally resonate with that. And I mean, people like, honestly, they respect it even more because they're like, wow, she's truly prioritizing, her well-being. And every time I write content about this, about like slowing down and like being intentional and being like, everything I do makes me money. When I rest, it makes me money. When I slow down, it makes me money. When I go out with friends, it makes me money. When I go like to the cabin up north, it makes me money. Like everything I do makes me money. Like it's like you gotta have that mentality. You gotta have that mindset that it's okay to slow down and it actually makes me money when I do. So I had to rewire my entire mindset, my entire brain, just to be able to truly relax and not think about a million things because that's how we're wired. Like I was wired anyways. Like, what's the next move? What's the next content? What's the next offer? Where's the next client? It's like my brain wouldn't shut up until I rewired this entire thinking of like, no, if I do slow down, it makes me money anyway. So
Okay,
yeah.
now that right there, what you just said, is so related to the healing that just happened this last weekend with me and my friend, or and you guys are hearing this well after that. But Diane Hudak and I did a thing called the Great Release, and we'll be having another one coming up. So check the website. But one of the patterns that came up for healing was the overwhelm, like the feminine overwhelm from our ancestry, where they
Mhm.
were burdened by so much that they could barely function because there was so much placed on them. and
Mhm.
and then it's certainly in our immediate generations that have made the shift into working and taking kids and being the head of the household and so that needs to be cleared. And so what you just spoke to is actually your own like rewiring of that pattern and saying, no, I'm not going to like be the next generation that carries the burden of the
Yeah.
feminine into no, I'm going to be free and sovereign and
Yes.
play and be in joy and love my life.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happened. And I also noticed the difference. Like there was like a shift, not only in my mindset, my energy, my belief and all of that, but also the type of clients I attract too. Because I feel like you're a mirror. So like who you are and what you believe, you're actually attracting those people to you as well. So I mean, everything changed when I changed that. So if there's one takeaway from this episode, that's it.
It's like change your mindset, change everything.
Yes.
Liberate yourself from domestication. And
Yeah.
and what we were talking about too before we started was like liberating women's voices, this generational struggle for women's liberation on all fronts, right? Like being able to speak our truth, being able to be free, liberating ourselves from the burden of what we thought we had to be who we actually are, and liberating ourselves to be that without any apology, like sorry not sorry. I am who I am. I'm doing what I'm doing, me. This is my authentic self, accept me or not, but this is who I am, right? I mean, that's what we're here to do, I believe.
Yes. And that's the whole reason why I started my podcast, because I feel like the more we can normalize that and like more women can listen to that, listen to those stories, I feel like it impacts people like in a deeper way because they're like, oh, she did it that way and it worked, right? Or, oh, this happened to her and she still came out victorious. Like, there's nothing I cannot do. And it's like having that winning mindset that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay, you're supported, everything is aligning for you. So it's like so inspiring. And I've also grown so much as a podcaster, as a human, as a friend, like just listening to these stories and being like in close proximity with these women. Like I also got you on the podcast and it was awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I've learned so much. And yeah, I just love it so much. And giving that place, that stage for women to share that, it means the world to me for sure.
So it is powerful because we're at a time of the great age and, the return of the divine feminine, the return of all of this beautiful divine feminine energy that's coming back into our lives and asking us to realign to the divine, to realign to the feminine, to realign to the truth of who we are, to open up access, to something that we can't even imagine right now. I mean, honestly, I keep being told, like, you're in a dark room, you're imagining the sunlight. All of a sudden you have this little toy on your desk that mimics the sun, and you go, oh my gosh, the sun, that's what I want. But you're still in the dark room, you're just looking at what you think is the sun, but there's actually the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we're being invited to go, okay, I am going to step in faith towards this new place, and in order to do that, I have to walk through some of my shadows, and I'm going to be revealed what the sun actually is. That's like where I'm hearing us going, and that takes faith and trust to slow down and not do what everybody else is doing. Because if everybody else is running the rat race and running around in circles and, biting their own tails, do you have to do it? It's like that old adage, if everybody else is jumping off the cliff, do you have to jump off too?
Yeah.
Okay, you just sit back and go, wow, everyone's jumping off the cliff. I don't know why they're doing that. I'm going to stay over here and I'm going to rest and have my little Mai Tai while I relax by the pool for a second and just kind of catch my breath and get centered, and then I'll decide what to do next, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's like learning to think for yourself and make your own decision and being okay with whatever the consequences are, either positive or negative. Like, you own you, like, you know who you are, you know what your goals are, you know where you're going. And it's okay if others don't agree with you, as long as you're happy and you do what's best for you, I feel like is important for sure.
Yeah, happy and do what's best for you. And you got to figure out what that is. And it might not be meeting other people's expectations, which might lead to some people being upset with you. Because have you faced any of that, like where you had pushback from your family or people close to you when you started actually living your truth?
Oh yeah. They're like, what are you doing? Like, go get a real job. Like, what is this? Like, yeah.
Oh my God, go get a real job. Have you listened to the book by Amanda Palmer called The Art of Asking?
No.
Okay, this for everybody. You guys, I love this book. This woman was a living statue in Harvard Square in Boston. And she made her money by dressing up as a bride, painting her face white, and giving anybody a daisy who put money in her hat.
Wow.
And so talk about get a job. She's like, this is my job. She made enough money to pay her rent and to buy food and stuff. So that's her job. She invented a job that included standing on a milk crate as a bride and handing out daisies. And that was her job. And people paid her for it. They gave her money to get a daisy because they wanted some love and attention, and she handed it to them. So we can create our own job. Like, yeah, the get a job thing is kind of a funny one, isn't it? This is your job. And it's your puzzle to figure out how it makes money,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love that. That's hilarious. So what do you advocate for people? Like, if they, let's say women are listening to this right now and they really want to get up the courage to be, to have their honest voice expressed. They really want to get up the courage to figure, get a job that's true for them, like create a job, not just get a job, but like create something from inside, and follow that path. Like, that's such a bold, courageous thing to do that you've done. What do you advise for women in that position?
That's such a great question. I think the biggest thing is first to listen to your own intuition first and like come up with, okay, I want to do this, right? So what's the most logical next step for me to take in order to get there? So it's really about understanding that every single step you take every single day is a stepping stone to getting there. And sometimes, like, especially nowadays, like, we live in this microwave society that we want everything now and yesterday. And if it doesn't happen, it means we're a failure. And like, and this spiraling down, right? But we got to put the instant gratification aside and understand that this is a journey, right? We're embarking on a journey, and the journey is going to have some bumps in the road, some detours. But as long as we keep going and understand that we're also becoming someone else, like we're reshifting our whole identity. Like it's not only the journey, but who we are as well as people. So it's like giving yourself grace as you walk through those blocks and those steps every single day. I feel is the most important thing to remember. And of course, if you can get some support and a guide along the way to guide you and tell you, hey, like, what about this? What about that? Or like, oh, I see this is happening. Like, why is that happening? And really make you think and dig deep. And it's going to be so much more, enjoyable to do it with someone than to go at it alone. So these are the little things I would tell them. And yeah, never give up. Just keep going, and you got this for sure.
Yeah, and the rewards are maybe not like what you thought. I mean, maybe you thought like, maybe you had a big plan for the year and you thought, okay, this is going to be my 6-figure year or my 7-figure year, and I'm going to do this year. And then you went out in the year and it didn't work out anything like that, and you made basically barely enough to pay your bills. But what did you gain? Like you were talking about resiliency. Like you're like, oh my gosh, I have resiliency. I didn't give up. Oh my gosh, I have wisdom because I found out what doesn't work. Oh my gosh, I found out the thing that does work and I started pursuing that. Oh my gosh, I got courageous and I started a podcast, or I started speaking. I had, 5 likes. It's like celebrate everything that did grow you and expand you, right? It's like I feel like we need to do more celebration. We're so good at pointing out what we've been trained to criticize ourselves and point out what doesn't work.
Yes.
We need to retrain to be celebrating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that to my clients, like, hey, how are you going to celebrate that? How are you going to do this? Like, I always ask them and they're like, I don't know.
I didn't think about celebrating it. But see, and your energy is all about celebration, Anna. Like, just listen, if you guys can feel her energy and it's like, even when you talked about, your youth and like helping out in the pizza joint, it's like, you were like, I learned that I was resilient. I learned that I could do it. And I learned that I didn't want to work like that. And I learned that, and I wanted to have, it's like you actually just turned everything into an opportunity. And I think that also is like a huge part of success, is turning everything you meet into gold, into an opportunity, into a negative wisdom.
Yes, and I get that a lot too. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, I could tell. Lots of positive energy. And it's not toxic positivity, because I want to say, like, toxic positivity doesn't have like resonance. It doesn't have depth. It just kind of flutters up here in like nonsense land. That's not connected to the challenge and the deep, like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like you're a toxic positivity person. I feel like you're like, okay, that's a real challenge. Let's embrace that whole thing, right? Talk about how you meet people with that, and then we're going to wrap up in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, of course. So I do love to like encourage my clients to, like you said, look at what we did accomplish instead of what still needs to get done. Right? We got to focus on the gratitude and focus on, wow, like I did that. Or like I went live for the first time, or I spoke in my first virtual summit, or I went to my first networking event. Like, celebrate all the firsts and just keep going. Even when you feel like people are not watching or no one's engaging or nothing is happening, I guarantee you everything is happening in that moment. You're just not seeing it. You're just not aware of it. But there are people right now thinking about, oh my gosh, how can I work with her? Like, she's amazing. Like, they're this close to messaging you and asking you, like, what's your rate? Like, give me the link. I want to sign up for your course. Like, you got to believe that that's what's happening right now and have that faith and keep going.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's powerful, even for me in this moment. Because I run through those phases where, like, they'll be like, I feel like I'm shadow banned, like nobody's, I'm like, there's like hardly anybody watching what I'm saying. And I've been doing this for like 5-6 years now on this podcast. And I get surprised. I'm like, what's going on with that? And then I just go, well, okay, another day. I just keep coming back to it, because I feel like when you know what you're here for, you can't give up on that. You can't give up on yourself. So if you're listening and this is you, do not give up on yourself. And that's what a coach is good for too, right, Anna? Because I've always had coaches, you guys. I always have had my own coaches. I love mentoring other people too. People like Anna. I mean, you want somebody like that in your court because it is, sometimes there's those moments. You need somebody to celebrate you to help you get out of your funk.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I'm the same way. I've always had support, and I really don't think I would be here without that because some days I'm just like, no, this is not working. And I just spiral down, and then my coach is like, no, everything's going to be fine. Take a deep breath, go take a walk, do whatever else.
Yeah, trust that it is happening, even if you can't see it.
Yes.
My coaches say every step you take, 1,000 steps are taken for you in the invisible realm. So just trust that it's like expanding and magnifying. And so our words are magic. They weave our worlds.
Yeah.
So, okay, Anna, so beautiful. So how do you invite people to get started to get to know you? Because sometimes when you're first getting started, you might have money fears, you might have, doubts or concerns, you like, do I trust this person? How do you help people get over that hump?
Oh my gosh, I would love to like chat. I'm a chatty pizza person. Like, I want to talk to you, get to know you, see what's going on, see how I can support. So feel free to DM me on Instagram at anapatricia.coach or join my group, the Powerful Female Coaches and Leaders Community. I go live every weekend there. You can meet amazing other like women entrepreneurs, network. And of course, you can listen to the podcast, the Powerful Female Leaders Podcast. And yeah, we can take it from there. And thank you so much, Carrie, for doing this. You're awesome. And yeah, this was an awesome conversation. I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I hope so. I loved it. I thought you so many great gold nuggets. So everybody, please like, share, subscribe, send it out there. Go check out my interview on Anna's podcast, and I'll put a links down below to the group and everything. So please join, please participate. If you're called, say yes. And here come your kisses, everybody. You ready for kisses? You want to help me out, Anna? Give kisses? Okay. We love you. We'll see you next week on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now, everyone. If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, Soul Show. Take a sip from the drip of the nectar, from the source of who you are.